Okay, we are officially recording. Jacob Cole.
All right, Ruben, it is good to hear your voice.
Yeah, it's nice to see you again, man.
Yes, you too, man. You too,
It
absolutely.
it's been the full quarantine. I at least saw Raphael for a podcast for like a second. We spent
Yeah,
like an hour together.
I was gonna say, yeah, that was actually kind of refreshing to have. I mean, you guys, your chemistry just in person is so
Yeah.
perfect too. The ultimate working relationship, or as Raphael would say, active collaborators only.
It's true, man. I only have room for active collaborators in my life.
That's right, man. I think that's what the world is right now. Only room
Yeah.
for active collabs. So,
Yeah.
yeah. Well, I was listening to that actually on my mission walk earlier. I've been listening to a couple, but that one always stuck out. I think just the ones that I know, where I know the person. So whether it's Eric or Raphael, and those
Yeah.
are always the ones that I can kind of revisit and be like, okay, cool. It's just like listening to a conversation in the van,
Yeah.
which
That's
is nice.
like I think that's nice too. I think trying to get just like a really natural conversation is tough. And then also getting one that sounds like you're in the van, like, or like having
Yeah.
a conversation with like you're playing a show
Oh yeah.
and it's supposed to be like, you're opening for someone and you want to ask them this question, but you don't want to ask them because it's like, hey man, how did you tour Europe? And like, because that's like
Right.
weird to ask at a show, but you can ask that on a podcast because it's
Yeah.
valuable information.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and it's all part of the hustle now too. It's sort of like any level of artist or musician or whatever, you literally are putting it all out there, whether that's posting every day to social media or doing a podcast or something. It sort of in a way lifts some of the, or takes away some of the mystery of maybe artists from like 30-40 years ago,
Yeah,
like that they had. But it's come full circle. Like I appreciate all the information. For somebody as neurotic as me, it really helps to hear what other people's processes are.
yeah, it's definitely nice to hear like what everyone's writing process is, or it's like those moments when you listen to a lot of interviews and someone's like, oh yeah, and then so and so label reached out to me and blah blah blah. It's like, well, how did that happen? Like you
Right.
skipped over the part, like the juicy part.
Right.
Like, how
Right.
did they hear about you? What'd they say?
Right.
Did you talk to them first? Like, it's
Right.
like the stuff that people just glaze over.
Yeah, and oftentimes the things that glazing over that you're talking about is the thing that is
Actually
equal
the most
for everybody.
valuable.
It's the most
Yeah.
valuable, and it also is what teaches us that they had to work just as hard or they had to hustle just as much, and that's
Mhm.
often misconstrued by just, I guess, the game. We're left with
And
the
then-
final product. We don't see
Mhm.
the process leading up to it, so it's nice to hear all of those stories.
And then Atlantic Records just reached out to me, and it's like, what? How'd
Right.
you get
You're
from
like-
here to there?
Right,
You're playing
yeah.
you were playing backyard shows, and now you're signed to like a major. How did that happen?
Yeah, and now that gap has kind of disappeared. I mean, it hasn't completely disappeared, but it's definitely shrunk quite a bit from what it was. And so now
Yeah.
we're able to have this sort of connection, whether it's through a podcast or honestly just people's feeds online.
Yeah.
Have you been trying to limit sort of like your online activity at all, just because of everything going on? Like, have you put any sort of like safeguards
Yeah.
in place?
Yeah, it was kind of like that. Like, I was getting ready I was like posting a bunch, and then the pandemic happened, and then that kind of slowed down the podcasts.
Right.
And then
yeah.
which kind of slowed down like everything, and then I was pitching the record, and then all signs
Right.
led to nowhere because the music industry also shut down for some
Right.
reason. And
Talk
then
about timing.
the protest happened, and it seemed
Right.
like a bad call to be taking up space
Agreed.
on social
Yeah.
media when and for someone like me, I wasn't out there protesting, so the best
Right.
thing I could see myself doing is just sharing information, sharing posts.
Yeah,
stuff like that.
absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. And that's the whole thing of like, what is an artist's role in something like that? That's like, it's different for everybody. And I know quite a few artists who all of these things that are going on are extremely important, but they don't have the luxury or the ability to go out and protest either. Now it could be because they have to take care of loved ones who they can't accidentally expose to potentially, what's going on, or it could be different reasons too, so yeah, I think clearing the airwaves is good for that reason, but also just to recenter as well. Like for myself, I haven't spent
Totally.
much time on Facebook, which has been really nice. Facebook has
Yeah.
gotten to be this thing that I don't know. I was only really on there for like one reason, and like when that
Totally.
reason dried up, like I'm not making event pages, I'm not connecting with my audience directly, and the people that I want to stay in touch with, I'm either staying in touch with through phone or email on
Yeah.
Instagram. But like Facebook just became, I don't know, unnecessary, I suppose, and kind
I
of
agree. Yeah.
a wasteland. But like, do I just like go dark because I'm not really on there, and it's kind of like the amount of traffic that I get, like if you aggregate the data, it's not worth it. Like I get most of my traffic through Instagram. So it's kind of like that whole thing. I think might have talked with you about this a while ago, because I've always enjoyed your hustle, especially online with networking and just, that part of the business, but is to focus on one thing instead of trying to do Twitter and Facebook and Instagram and do them all really well, or all of the other ones. Like there's TikTok now too, right?
Yeah.
Which is just crazy. And I feel like I'm not nearly entertaining enough to be on all of those equally. So I kind of just focus on where I feel like my market works. And that's sort of what guides me. Is it's sort of like throwing a few different things to the wall, see what sticks. And then that's what I let dictate. Okay, I'm going to just focus on this one. And for a couple of years now, that's what sort of led me. Even though I haven't released anything for, I got like 3 years now, it's still, that for me is my guiding light, I guess, with social media. But again, now that, we're not gigging or anything, which is utterly depressing. God, man, those tours too. I was really looking forward to that. I was looking forward to the time, just the maybe writing music or something like in the van.
Totally.
Or just
making
connecting.
videos and posting them online and finding things like that to do. Like, I know. I was thinking of like doing, taking this podcast on tour as well.
Oh yeah, totally.
Not like that coincides with the Dante tour. Like, so when we stop in Texas, we do Brother Sports.
Right.
And
right.
my whole podcast setup is like built for remote. Like everything's like runs on batteries and nothing has to be plugged in. Like
right. It's very mobile.
Yeah. So I wasn't expecting to have to do this on Zoom, but here we are.
Yeah, absolutely. And how are you holding up otherwise, Like, I mean, just day to day.
I kind of said this in a few podcasts ago, but I'm just, you just repeat yourself all the time doing this shit. I'm learning. You can't always say original shit all the time, but it was kind of like the first month I took off. I was like, I don't know what's happening. Let's just chill, relax, watch some TV, maybe play some video games, like just get away from everything and just avoid people, right? And then after that month went by, I was like, okay, I'm done. Like, so let's just start doing demos now. Let's start like planning, in case shit opens up again. But now it's looking like, who knows?
I know Daddy Newsom just released that statement today about closing, rolling back to like, I don't know, just
phase
what was it called? Yeah, something like that. So well, that's interesting stuff. But no, I remember you saying, like in some of the previous episodes, like you started, sharing stems. You also didn't see Jenny for a little while. So, but you guys are still, you've, broken that.
Yeah, my girlfriend and I, we didn't see each other for 3 months. I spent like 2 weeks there, and I was just like, after a while, I was like, okay, I can't, like, I don't know. It's just about having my own space and being able to be loud. I can't really, it's like, I don't feel comfortable being loud at her house.
Right. Yeah. Well, and like you and Ross said, it's good to be alone. Like, I agree with you.
It's nice to be alone.
It's nice to be alone. Like, I enjoy being around people, but I really, really do enjoy being alone and having that isolation period, So, but even for me, I mean, it's getting to a point now where there's just like there's this social static in the air that we're all picking up on subconsciously, and it elevates everything from stress to your day-to-day activity to even for somebody like me who I feel like needs maybe a little bit longer hermiting for a little while, I feel like I've been itching for a while to just get out and hang with people,
You mentioned your mission walk. Are you going on daily walks now?
Oh yeah, yeah. So I'll go for. I could say I go for a run, but that would be a lie. I do not have the stamina to fucking run. So I go for. I would say about like a 2.5, 3 mile
Okay.
walk. I'll do like 90-second spurts where I run really hard and then I'll walk. And then that's
Yeah.
when I like listen to podcasts and just catch up on information and clear my head. Honestly, like that's
Yeah.
the best thing. Getting sun. I mean, they say that vitamin D is good for the Rona. So
That's what they're
or
saying. Yeah.
yeah, and I don't know. I mean, since day one, I feel like
Got
anything
my
that I.
got my vitamin D right here.
Oh yeah.
And I've been going outside, but yeah, I've been doing both.
Supplemental is good too. I actually just ran out of the supplemental form, so I'll have to re-up on that. But like the little local vitamin store that I go to is like running low on stuff now too.
Oh
so,
yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that is another thing is there invariably, just like early on, there was those shortages that happened with the basic necessities. And you know, now there's other ones that are kind of popping up too. I don't think it will be quite as bad, but you know, that's going to happen regardless. So, but yeah, going outside, walking, yeah, just navigating, man, trying to stay sane.
Totally. Yeah, I enjoy my my somewhat nightly walks. Like it gets around the 7 o'clock. I'm like, all right, time to get up and go. Like I've done enough.
Are you in the wearing a mask when you go out for a walk, or are you in the camp of, well, I'm outside, so
I bring the mask, and when someone gets near me, I put it on. Like I can see them coming towards me.
Yeah.
But like, yeah, if you're completely by yourself, I don't know. From what I've listened to, that it's fine if you're outside and by yourself.
Yeah.
You know?
I mean, and I know that the CDC and the WHO and everybody and their mother continues to evolve as far as the information goes, like what the actual empirical data says changes. Totally. I mean, that's science, but like it seems like common sense things, like to circle back to vitamin D, like, or getting exercise or getting outside, like those are things that if this is a virus, those are things that do work for your immune system. So it's kind of like, well, yeah, just keep doing those things. But I agree. I keep a mask in my back pocket, and then I basically just
getting good sleep.
Getting good sleep. That is something I still am working on, man. But like,
that's why I bring it up.
1 or 2 days a week, I let myself sleep for like 8 hours, and it's hard. It's hard for me to sleep past 6 hours. And
what?
I don't know why that is, but it's.
Oh man.
It's just one of those things, like my internal clock. I used to think it was because I was neurotic or an insomniac or whatever. I think that's just how I operate. I go for like 5 days with not a lot of sleep. I work really hard, and then I crash on the weekend. And I'm lucky if I can sleep in. Like I on Sunday, that was like my day off. And me and Sarah went to the beach, which felt really good to get outside. And it was kind of interesting seeing like that process too, like how beaches are handling everything with letting people in or letting people out, and who wears masks, who doesn't. But we needed to get out, and that was the first time in a long time. It felt really good, but I slept in maybe till, I don't know, like 10. Like that's like sleeping in for me now. And I'm not a morning person by any means, but I try to get up earlier and I don't know. And it's not even being productive, because I feel like I don't do that much. I know I do a lot, but it doesn't, at the end of the day, it doesn't seem like it's that much. And I don't know. I mean, you've known me for not long enough. I'm a scattered motherfucker. Like I am organized. In my mind, I feel like I have it all figured out. I write like tons of lists. I'm very analytical, but I'm very like, my mind just wanders, you know. Like even in talking with you, invariably I'm gonna probably lose my train of thought because I'm thinking of something else that's going on in this side
that's
of my
all
brain.
Right.
So that shit just happens.
Well, I've been preaching about the power of now. Have you read that book?
Yes, I have actually. That's that 4 Agreements, Daring Greatly. There's a couple that I've kind of been re-diving into to just stay present.
Extremely present,
yeah, exactly. Yeah,
well, because Jenny's been finding difficulty of just like staying present and in the moment, and she's worried about like 10 different things that are years in the future, and I'm just like, what?
Oh yeah, totally. Yeah, I mean, I think honestly, since I turned 30, welcome to the club, by the way.
Yeah, thank you.
That was the moment that it kind of started to slow down, where I realized like, oh, the number I had in my head, or the number that society puts on you, that you're supposed to accomplish a great amount of success by this date, or, you know, life ceases to
Oh
exist.
yeah, yeah.
That
You're
just
worthless now.
that just changes. Yeah, exactly. Like you understand your value, what it actually is versus what society tells you it is, or what you think it is, and your expectations change. But I would say from that moment forward, like I absolutely started to let go of like certain, I need to get this done by this time, and just kind of try and finish a project with the right intention. But I'm always struggling, man, with finishing something and then letting go enough to just like literally let it go out into the world. So that is my Achilles heel, is having a wealth of material or a wealth of ideas, and even having a lot of them done, but I don't put it out as much as I should. I don't contribute. And this time's definitely taught me the value in putting out even something that is only half done. Like I started actually like taking my voice memos and GarageBand demos and just putting them through that Lander mastering algorithm. Yeah, like fuck, this works. I should just put some of this shit out. So and I think that's part of the goal for me. It's not like, part of it is internal work with the time, like what we're going through, but like the other part is like just trying to get into some healthier practices with being an artist or being a writer or being a musician. Releasing shit and not being so self-conscious of it,
Exactly. Yeah, I think those times are done, man. I think for me the album is done.
Good.
All that, all of it's over with, man. Like especially right now, because we don't have anyone funding our careers. I know. When time comes, it's all self-funded. So we're the boss. We can make the rules. And so until someone's funding us and becomes our boss,
right?
What are we're holding on to this like traditional way
archaic
of releasing
idea.
Music, archaic way of releasing and making music that doesn't work anymore in 2020. Not in just because of the internet, because of COVID-19.
Yeah, I know. Well, it's been changing for years, right? We've known that. You've been great about staying on top of it. My friend Wesley from The Only Ocean, he's been really consistent of people like in our area in Lompoc here. But like, there is no reason to not be productive. You just have to let go of what your assumption was the industry represented in your mind, and then just start, putting stuff out or doing whatever it is for yourself that feels fulfilling. And if that's putting something out, great. And if it's not, that's fine too. I think, different strokes for different folks. It's definitely not a one size fits all thing anymore. And it is, the industry has changed. I mean, like, we really live in a time of kind of like, just releasing a single. Like, you release Jenny. If you're going to keep releasing singles off this new record, great. And then by the end, if you throw out the record, that's perfect too. But it's like single, video, and then call it a day. Move on to the next thing. I mean, like Andy Warhol said, make art, put it out, and then move on to the next thing. And who cares what anybody thinks? Like, just move the fuck on.
I got my Andy Warhol inspiration coming this Friday, actually.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I'm eating an Impossible. Me and Jenny are eating Impossible Whoppers just in front of the camera.
Oh, sweet. All right. Sounds good.
Yeah.
Yes,
so that would be
Warhol.
that. Yeah, that's coming out. Well, this will come out later, but it will be coming out that Friday. Yeah.
Okay. Nice, man. Very cool. Well, power to it. Yeah, I mean, this is the time to try all that shit. Yeah. Exactly.
Like, I still need a lyric video for 90 days. Okay. So that's like, I have like 2 weeks to get that done.
Nice. Okay.
So now I'm working like with some lead time now.
Okay. Gotcha.
If I can do that, that'll be good.
Yeah. Well, good, man. Right on. I mean, that's the thing I haven't done. Like I said, I haven't released something in 3 years, so I have to go through I guess it's TuneCore is what I used last time.
Oh yeah, that's what I use.
Go through the whole distribution process. And what is it? Is it like 2 weeks out that you plan, or is it really you just set whatever date you want now? Because I know they have to process it for a certain amount of time before it gets to all those different streaming.
I think
services.
It says it's recommended to do 2 weeks, but it's really fast. Yeah.
And I mean, 2 weeks sounds right too. That's plenty of time for promotion. So
totally.
I mean, that's the 24 hours news cycle. I mean, God, promotion cycles are like a week now. not even a
Yeah,
month anymore.
I think it's healthy to give yourself 2 weeks. 'Cause if you give yourself 2 weeks, then yeah, you can put it up on TuneCore. If you're gonna
Yeah,
shoot a video, you can shoot the video in one day and edit it yourself the next day. It's like that's kind of been the
yeah,
workflow I've been dealing with. Like shoot
yeah.
it myself.
Yeah, I was gonna say you're actually doing like Premiere, and you said you got Pro Tools too, so you've been working
Yeah,
with
yeah,
that. Even though I
yeah,
know
yeah.
you're no fan of Pro Tools, but um,
I'm
I
done with Pro Tools, man. I hate that
yeah,
I locked
yeah,
myself in for the year. But yeah.
yeah. Why did you go with Pro Tools over like Logic or
I have
some?
a Windows and Logic is only for Macs.
Oh, got it. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Fair.
And then
Fair.
I thought
Fair
about
point.
maybe I should just buy a new laptop. And now I'm like, shit, I'm spending a lot of money I don't have now.
There's that too. I mean, like that's one thing that's always happened in my head is like, fuck, man, the world is, maybe gonna end. And then the other side of my brain is like, nah, don't be a fucking idiot. Like, it's gonna go on. Just keep working, keep adapting, but don't be a moron and blow all your money like that. I have those two things going constantly. Like the very ridiculous conspiratorial side of my brain, just going like, fucking pandemic. Racial justice. What's next? The fucking aliens are gonna land or some shit. I don't know.
Well, we
Like,
saw that footage of the aliens like flying. Like
I know.
they have confirmed.
I know.
No one
I
even
know.
cared about that.
I know. It's crazy. There's many other fish to fry, I guess.
I know.
Yeah. If only Jeff Goldblum and Will Smith were here to say aliens have landed or welcome to fucking Earth or whatever that line is.
Yeah.
From the movie.
Well, Will Smith has been caught up in his own controversy this week as well. Have you kept up on any of that?
I'm just now seeing people
The
post,
entanglements?
like about the entanglements exactly. Like this is me. Like again, I've been trying to on the weekends when I'm not working Monday through Friday. I'm like plugged in, and then come Saturday I do like a hard unplug. So like I went on Facebook literally right before this for the first time since Friday, and I'm seeing all this shit trending and all this entanglement shit, and then I start looking at everything else, and I'm like, oh, okay, this is interesting. So
I like it as someone who's been in a few entanglements himself. I can attest that that's a good way to put it, and I'm going to continue to use that word from now on.
Entanglements, huh?
Yeah.
Well, we all have entanglements that we dealt with in past world, that's for sure. But no, I need to I suppose follow up on that. I've only seen people just literally posting that word entanglements, so I don't know the actual story, but I can imagine it's rich in Hollywood.
She has a show on Facebook, which I didn't even know people watch things on Facebook.
Yeah, there's a show I'm doing music for on Facebook. It's my buddies are doing like a positively. How do they market it? A positively minded, community-based, locally sourced, like YouTube show. I don't even think it's they don't call it a podcast, but like it's called Good Morning Lompoc. And
cool.
That was kind of fun. Like writing the theme song for that, and then that for me was like a crash course. Was like literally learning how to use a lot of this shit from home. Like you had given me some leads after, this looked like it was going to be much bigger than people were thinking at the time. I started kind of like researching, well, how do I do more shit from home? So like I talked with Eric, talked with my friend Bear, talked with Zach, just everybody that I know who does recording, and like, hey, what kind of interface should I get? Like, this is kind of roughly my budget. And honestly, like you've been doing stuff from your iPad. I've just been literally doing most things from my iPad. It's fucking good. It's quick. It's easy to access. But my favorite is still this little busted ass Tascam 8-track.
Oh, cool.
This little Porta Studio that I just record everything on, and that's nice to use. But yeah, so they have this little Facebook live show, and that was the first like show that I'd seen on Facebook. So speaking of Jada Pinkett Smith, I didn't know she even had one. So there you go.
The Red Table and Good Morning Lompoc. Yeah, things to look forward to on Facebook.
On Facebook, yeah, things to look forward to. I mean, if people are, I don't know, they're doing that boycott of Facebook too. All those big, Patagonia. I think this is a Patagonia shirt. That shit's so expensive too. Fuck, man. I read something that those sponsors, even though like their hearts are in the right place, you're talking about a 7% decrease over Facebook's revenue. Like that's all that does, is it? And it's only for a month. So you're talking about 7% decrease for just a month out of like $70 billion in ad revenue. Like that's insane.
Yeah.
just those figures, like fuck, man. Anyways,
I think I know it seems like a small, but a small little amount, but I think it could make a difference, and
I hope it
hopefully,
does. Yeah.
hopefully leading us into getting paid for them using our data.
Yes, totally. Like Yang's talked about. That's one of the podcasts I've been listening to. Is Yang Speaks. I really,
Yep.
really have
Me
been
too.
enjoying that. Yeah, and that he had that dude on there who was working on some kind of, I think, hate speech monitoring algorithm.
Oh,
which
yeah.
sounds interesting, a little scary, but
Yep.
interesting. And then, but that conversation just about sponsors and ad revenue and the boycott of Facebook and yeah, absolutely. It's definitely more of a positive than a negative, for sure.
He's the only one that I see still doing it. Like Bernie went ghost. Kamala Harris is finally getting talked about again because she might be VP.
She might be
Elizabeth
VP,
Warren kind of went ghost. Where Yang has started like two separate companies working on the things he said he was going to work on. UBI, getting paid for your data.
Totally. Yeah, like he's been through one of his nonprofits, he's been doing the giving people grants. I mean, like you could still apply. Like
in
actually
New York,
I applied for one just for the hell of it because he said he was expanding past New York. I was like, fuck it. My family needs help. I'm gonna fucking do this.
Of course.
And that was before we did the GoFundMe, which really fucking took off. I can't thank the community enough for all that help. We raised like over $10,000.
Oh wow!
Which was great to just go basically towards like my mom and dad's bills last year, and then from her other surgery and everything going on this year. So that really went a long way.
Wow.
Yeah. So that was really nice. But regardless of that, I also applied for one of Andrew Yang's grants. Just like, I don't know, I like the guy. I like what he has to say. It can seem a little dystopian at times, but like that's the reality of what we're living in. Like people don't view it that way because of what it's dressed up as, but we are absolutely living through a very unique futuristic situation.
Mm-hmm.
The kind that like George Orwell, warned us about in 1984 and all that shit. So I don't know.
Have you received anything else from any grants?
No, I know I shared that list with you. You shared some stuff with me. I applied for all of those, all the ones that I was eligible for. This was also before, and hopefully nobody from the IRS is fucking gonna watch this shit. It doesn't really matter. Anyways, I feel like I'm such a small blip on their radar. It doesn't matter. But I hadn't done my taxes for like a few years. Like once I got divorced and started working, I quit working on the Air Force Base and then started working at my dad's music store and kind of like helped close that because he wanted to call it quits, and me and my brother didn't want to take it over. So then it transitioned into Certain Sparks. And I feel like with moving around a few times, I just totally neglected to do my taxes. And I was able to still get like Medi-Cal and other things. I was able to kind of like BS my way through it. And I don't know, it wasn't until this past spring when all of this stuff hit that I was like, oh fuck, I need to have like my taxes done in order to apply for a lot of these things. So I bit the bullet and paid what I owed and got everything up to date. That was a chunk, but it was worth it to, if nothing else, to get like the pandemic assistance money, which runs out in like 2 weeks. So that's going to be, that's going to be a trip. But even having some form of UI has been really, really helpful. It's been, just a little bit, but it's enough. And at this point, like for the amount I was making, like I'm making about a third of what I was making before all of this happened. So I've had to definitely rethink quite a bit. So, but yeah, to answer your question, no, I didn't unfortunately get any grant money. Did you?
I got $1,000 from Music Cares.
Oh, sweet.
And
nice.
I didn't know what it was, and I was like, what the fuck is this? I looked, I was like, oh my god, it's real. Like,
fuck, dude, that's awesome, man.
It was cool. It's gone now, but like,
right,
it was
$1,000.
But shout out to Music Cares. I couldn't believe it. I thought that was bullshit. I was like, they're not gonna give anyone money.
I mean, I've heard about more people getting this shit than not, to be honest. So
that's crazy.
yeah, I didn't have my shit together in time to do it. And then by that point, when I did apply, I think that funding had basically run out. So, oh well.
That's the thing. Yeah, you gotta be fat. I
Yeah,
think
you
I
gotta be
did that.
fast.
I did it like the day of, and but you had to like prove that you lost money,
Yeah,
due to
yeah,
this,
that
and
yeah, that was
we
easy to
did
do.
cancel 2 tours.
We
So
canceled 2 tours, yeah, and there's a paper trail from like all of the, or at least like a virtual paper trail, like via the like emails I got from different people saying gigs are canceled, and
yeah,
proof of like what I was going to make, and I had some W-10 forms and things like that. So
yeah,
that part was easy. It was just literally I hadn't filed for my taxes for a few years. So once I did that too, though, that opened up like everything for me, because I'm not an employee. I wasn't an employee at Certain Sparks. I was an
yeah.
independent contractor. So it's
Independent.
like, yeah, yeah. So I wasn't going to get that UI until the federal government basically
Change that
like
rule.
changed that rule. Yeah, and
Yeah,
I mean, I think it's not enough. Like Yang has said this, Bernie said this, quite a few people have, but and plus like all of that money, there's no oversight. A lot of it has gone right to just the top 1% anyways, who don't need it, of course. And now they're like haggling like to try and get more money. Like the Heroes Ass Pack passed Congress, I
yeah.
think, back a month and a half ago, and they still haven't figured that shit out. It's like, I don't know. I am a bit of a political junkie, but that shit is, it's sick is what it is. And I feel sometimes
yeah.
sick. I feel sick sometimes. I hope you don't mind. I'm going to change my hat. I feel like
That's
this
okay.
red, which I love, is going to get me flagged as like a trumper or some shit. I'm just kidding. I do think about that. I mean, do you ever think about those things, like things that are just so, you'd like to think that most things are self-evident, but
Yeah.
like little things like wearing a red hat or something could get you, or even being moderate versus like,
Yeah,
fully
if-
progressive. It's like, can you get
Totally.
you into not trouble per se, but people will assume some things, but that also might just be me being, again, neurotic about it. So who the fuck knows?
No, I think the whole red hat thing can get crazy because there's a lot of
Yeah.
red hats out there.
There are. I mean, it's literally my favorite fucking color. So when Trump fucking stole it, I was like, you fucking cock.
I'm trying to think
God.
if I have any red. I don't think I have like a red like baseball cap. I have like
Yeah.
nah. That's like mostly black and red. Yeah, but I don't have like
Yeah.
a full red hat. It can get weird.
Yeah. Now I was actually this hat I've had since the St. Anne's Place days, and it's
Yeah.
literally like torn and
Yeah,
worn
I've
as
seen-
shit. Like that shit's
yeah,
it's worn.
I've seen that hat a lot. Yeah.
Yeah, totally. I don't wear it on a first date unless I'm trying to not have a second.
So where's your first date spot in Lompoc? What are you doing on a first date in Lompoc?
First date, pre-COVID or like with COVID in
Yeah,
mind?
pre-COVID.
Okay, pre-COVID, I would say first date in Lompoc is actually going to La Turisma Mission. I think that's a nice first
Okay.
date because it's outside, you're active. To be honest, for somebody like me too, whose mind kind of moves at like 1,000 miles a minute, so I have trouble verbalizing things. Like my partner has told me many times I'm a non-verbal communicator. It's why I play fucking music. But what I have found over the years is like, if I'm moving, or like you can probably see me talking with my hands, I have to physically move in order to get the thoughts from here out my mouth. So like an activity like walking or doing something where there's consistent, constant movement definitely helps. So going to La Turisma is nice. Going, I don't know, to Southside, getting some coffee.
Yeah.
If you're like, oh, this is like date 3.
Ooh.
It's getting serious. Maybe go to La Beauté.
Maybe go to the Wicked Shamrock for a nice nice brew.
Nice brew. Yeah, nice brew. Yeah, the Sham. It's funny, man. I even miss fucking playing at dive bars.
I know.
Like I miss all of it. And it's funny. It's like I feel like I'm grieving, even though I don't even know exactly what I'm grieving. Like I'm grieving missing playing some shitty gigs. There's some good gigs
Totally.
and there's some bad gigs, but like it's the whole process. I think like for me, I've never been to a therapist. I probably should, but like setting up, breaking down, like you do the DJ thing. There's a form of catharsis to that movement again, and even the routine is kind of therapeutic in a way. So I miss all of that shit, man. And just yeah, that is the social side of me definitely misses crazy people, like those little weird interactions you'd have, that you only
Yep.
see in a dive bar, that you only see at some gig. I kind of miss some of that wacky shit. Made me feel alive.
I think that's like the advice most therapists would give right now is finding a routine and some form of, normalcy.
Oh yeah.
I can say this because my girlfriend is she's like in school right now to be a therapist, and these are the
Right.
things that she's she's telling
Yeah.
me.
Yeah, no, I remember Jenny talking about that. I mean, I think that's a wonderful thing. She's not only a very talented artist, but like she has a knack for listening and understanding where people are coming from. That also very important empathy that I wish more people had.
Yeah,
But
exactly. So I think she'll be good at it, but
yeah,
yeah, just finding like a routine, that normalcy, and like, making it work. I don't know, finding ways to make money. I just had a private DJ gig cancel on me today.
would it have been like the first one, or have you done a couple of those?
It would have been the first one, yeah. It would
Yeah.
have been
Okay.
this woman's like private house, and but one of her
Nice.
guests got coronavirus, so
Fuck.
gonna not do that one now.
Yeah, nope, I guess so. God damn. Yeah, no, I
I
just got
know.
booked my first gig. My old sister-in-law, my friend now, she runs one of the farmers markets in the area, and she said she just got approved. I mean, who knows now, because, again, Daddy Newsom closed down some shit. And
Yeah.
that's, numbers are going up. We don't know where this is going to go, obviously. So we did book something, though, tentatively for August 2nd. It would be outside, like in a big lawn area, and there'd be like a food truck. It's basically just a farmer's market
Yeah.
gig. But I was like, oh, well, that actually sounds not as pretentious as like going to a winery, or not as depressing as like just starting to play again and going to a dive bar, like, not that it
Totally.
needs to be like something special, but like this whole situation has shown me that you have a choice, and you might as well make yourself even more valuable by distancing yourself from certain things that you maybe did before. And I think that's just one of the things I've been like trying to internally like work out, even though a lot of my friends, like, I think when we entered stage or phase 2, and we were allowed to I guess like go out to not bars, but like, I think it was when tasting rooms were allowed to have people even maybe a little bit inside, as long as they had food, which is just an interesting sort of like little caveat. I feel like there were a lot of places that sort of like usurped the actual guidelines to just try and open up. And I don't know. It's interesting. I guess my point is I'm not judging anybody who is going back and doing those things, but for me, it's been a good opportunity to just kind of hold back and take a breath and really think
Yeah.
about like more long term, where I see
Yeah.
myself. Like you said, being present, that's a really important thing. It's something I definitely struggle with every day. So reading that book, there's quite a few, like this one by Amanda Palmer, who I'm not really into her music, but I saw her TED talk called The Art of Asking. And then she's one of the ones who helped spearhead Patreon. So that was interesting. And she just talks about her process and literally the art of asking, and how it's inherently viewed as a negative as an artist to do that. Like, it's been an interesting read. And for anybody, I think, who's in our position, I would highly recommend it. She says some very spot on things that somehow work and are very relevant in this particular situation. Like you said to Ralph, Patreon is blowing up.
Yeah,
Like,
it really is, man. People who
Yeah.
kind of laughed at the idea, maybe at the end of last year when I talked to them
Yeah.
about it, or they're kind of like, I don't know, it feels weird, like asking people
Yeah.
for money, and they all have Patreons now, and like everyone
Yeah.
I know has a fucking Patreon.
Yeah, it's
or a
crazy.
Twitch stream, like, something you can make money off of.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. And that's just, like live shows, like real live shows with lots of people at a theater, at some of our favorite venues, like, when is that shit going to start happening? Like, what do we do in that interim period? And well, it's evolving and changing. We're kind of figuring it out as we go. And like, to circle back to what we said about the industry as a whole in general, there's not a one size fits all solution. So you have to figure out what works for you. Patreon makes sense. For me, I've been kind of waiting for the right time to launch mine. Like, we had COVID, right? So then it was sort of like this adjustment period of like, how do I work from home? How do I work remotely? How do I just survive for like the first month and a half, take care of my family, figure things out? And then, you know, things started kind of reopening, but kind of not. And then there was protests and everything. And it was just, I didn't want to, whenever I guess is the right time, but you do, as an artist, you do want to be kind of aware of what the cultural zeitgeist is telling you. And you want to be aware of certain things. And so I think now is probably more ideal than not. But yeah, Patreon is a great thing. I mean, YouTube, that's one thing I've completely below. Like, I have no YouTube presence whatsoever. I think last time I checked, I had maybe like 56 like followers or subscribers or whatever. So yeah. I'm just going to try doing what like Wolfpack does and just post whatever on there. Like, just post me making breakfast and then post a video about fucking how to play an E major chord, and then post a music video, and then call it a day.
I'm honestly not even joking. That's like, I've been studying their YouTube channel at least for the last like 2 months, and finding out and just finding out what they're doing. And I've been giving this advice to like Eric too, Glossies. Shout out to Glossies. Of him, I told him he needs to start doing like audio production tips.
Yeah,
he needs to start share his screen and like, now you're explaining to the audience, this is how I did this to my audio, and this is how these are my mixing tips.
Right.
And meanwhile, they're listening to your song and they're not even know, because they came here for the tips, but now they're listening to your song. It's kind of like a little find that.
Yeah. It's a funneling system is what it is. And it
provides value and entertainment at the same time.
Exactly. And that's the trick, is how do you find that match? And I think you landed on it. Like, for Eric, it would be showing mixing process, or how are you gonna
how's he getting these sounds, what pedals he's using,
like, how are you gonna quantize drums, or whatever
totally
it might be. But like for me, it would be lessons, guitar pertinent related stuff, that guitar related content that I have shied away from putting online because I never wanted to be a YouTuber. People do it way better than me, and there's a lot more informative, well produced versions of that. So it's sort of like, I guess you have to, like, for me, it's realizing you can't compete with that. And the whole point isn't to compete with that. It's just that you're putting out content that, as it relates to you, what is your strength? Yeah. Well, you're a guitar player or a songwriter. So put out something with your, not even your flair, just you being you. And that's oftentimes enough. There's a little bit of an entertainment quality to it. Like I was thinking the other day of, because I just have, what I've been doing now too is trying to keep like a content creation sort of like log. So I'll
schedule,
plot out, schedule. So I'll plot out what videos I want to do. And granted, I haven't like released any of them, but like in terms of what the content is going to be, then shooting it and then editing it together and doing those on like 3 different days. That way I'm not like overwhelming myself. Cause that is usually what I will do. I'll go on like a manic and I'll just get the idea, record it, edit it, try and post it all in the same day. And that's no way to fucking do anything. No. It's not sustainable. So yeah, finding your niche, because there is one for everybody, but that niche usually is just you being you and playing to your strengths. So, but it's hard to let go of sometimes the other critical side of my brain, where it's like, well, there are other people who already do this, or there are other people who, it doesn't really matter, I guess. So you just got to start. What was that?
The problem people can run into is like, I went to go shoot a video the other day. I shot it.
Yeah.
And then I was like, I'll edit it tomorrow. And then maybe, and then it's like fresh eyes and fresh ears and figuring out the edit. But if you're trying to do it all in one day, it can get really frustrating and it might not come out as great as you want to.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that's like, I would say most of the creative stuff that I do is I go on like a creative binge, and then I burn myself out, and then I have to take longer to recover from that creative process and then go back to it. So yeah, finding healthier, more consistent, sustainable action items that you can like literally do a little bit of every day on your work week or whatever. So that's been actually a really healthy thing about, one, not working at certain Sparks anymore and just working from home, but having this time to really sort of start dedicating this day to this task, this day to this task. And of course you can be flexible because it's yourself, you're your own task master essentially. But it's nice to have that structure, and it is necessary too if you want to actually be productive.
Yeah, what's the story behind you just like getting away? I don't know, I'm trying to think of the right word. Just you cease your employment with certain Sparks. Like I know it's all in good love and everything's probably fine, but like
yeah. So yeah, sure. The story there is that basically Randall decided to close the shop.
Yeah.
And we decided to teach remotely. Prior to that, I had already been thinking of wanting to do this sort of a thing, teaching remotely or teaching online, as well as continue to teach in person at certain Sparks. But me being me, I procrastinated and didn't have that conversation. And we're friends. Like,
yeah,
I love Randall. I love that whole crew. They're family. So it became a little bit more complex than, in my mind at least, than just having that conversation. So flash forward to from the start of the new year to COVID happening in March. And the shop closed down. We moved to doing lessons remotely, and I just decided that I would like to take this opportunity to move on to the next thing, because I did not see, and so far I've been correct about it. Lessons haven't resumed in person at the shop, and now with the governor's orders, it's not likely to happen anytime soon. So it's sort of like just trying to evolve into the next phase of whatever for myself, but as gracefully as possible. And me and Randall talked about it a lot. He's been wanting to change some things with the shop too, and sort of like the percentages that teachers make and the shop makes. And, everybody is having to do things now to survive. And that means coming to terms with making a harder decision that you may otherwise not have to make during this time. So it's just, through talking, it seemed like the right decision for both of us. Like, they're doing a lot of work. I think there's one other teacher is moving on to other things, who is also kind of like me, where he had his foot sort of in a few different doors. So it just seemed like the right time. And
so when you said the shop closed down, you meant like it's just closed due to COVID, but it's not actually, it's not permanently closed down.
Yeah, no, not at all. So it's definitely still a thing. They're still doing lessons. There's still, like, my favorite part of that business is, for the past couple of years, has been the Certain Sparks Music Foundation, which does outreach to schools, and then provides lessons and sponsorships basically to families and kids who otherwise couldn't afford to take lessons, or even to get a guitar or get a bass or get whatever. So that part of the business, I'm going to try, hopefully when we can perform again, I would love to do some fundraising for them. That was actually something I was wanting to put together before. That's still happening. Lessons are still happening, but everybody's just basically teaching remotely. I think Randall will teach at the shop. They're open 2 days a week now. From 1 to 4, Monday and Thursdays, I think. And they're still doing repairs. Some of them, and Randall included, are making like deliveries. So like you can order some stuff in town and they'll go and drop it off and stuff like that. So they're still active. It's just the information flow hasn't been as smooth. But that's, we're living in a crazy time where nothing is smooth. So I had to kind of just zoom out and look at that whole situation and the whole thing, and just see, well, how do I fit into this? And am I being more of am I being not as much of an asset by staying more of a stick in the mud? And then, even aside from how I fit into that equation, what do I actually want to do? And that's honestly what it came down to, is I would like to be, and have wanted to be, a free agent for a long time now. And that's just where I'm at. Like, I love teaching, whereas like 10 years ago I didn't quite as much, but I've really grown to love it. I love the connection, probably now more than ever, like having that interaction a few times a week with kids, teenagers, adults, and having these relationships sort of develop through this thing. It's giving teaching a whole different angle. You're not just teaching anymore. And I mean, I think for a long time, really what I came to understand, and why I really enjoy teaching, is you're doing a lot more than just teaching. You're being there for a lot of these kids who are going through hard times, or trying to navigate what a strange world we live in, and who have questions about things or whatever. And so now that part of the job has incredibly been amplified because of COVID. So like sometimes we'll get online and we'll just talk for like 15, 20 minutes before we even play guitar and just check in. How are you doing? How's your family? How are you feeling? You know, having those conversations has been really helpful. And again, I think for people on both ends of the iPad or both ends of the device. So that's been good. So I feel good about the change. It's just, it's honestly not any different because I've been teaching from home for the past 4 months. It would have been different if the shop was more active and things were, you know, open like they were before.
Everything was business as usual.
Totally. Yeah. It's just not the case. So, and honestly, I've just, if nothing else from this experience so far, I've just learned to expect the unexpected. Actually, I feel like musicians or people who might live outside of the status quo or the norm or whatever are kind of used to living like that anyways. So for me, it's not that I haven't really felt anxiety or weird or strange about anything that's been going on, other than that it is very disruptive, that's all, to our normal activity.
Jenny's been saying that. She was like, this hasn't changed anything in your life. You're doing the exact same shit you were doing like last year too. I'm like,
right, yeah,
I guess. I don't know,
just not actually in person, or you know, the gigging thing, of course. Like we did have those 2 tours lined up, and I was, you know, I'm still moving forward with planning to release stuff. I feel like I picked the worst time in the world to try and release something after not releasing something for so long. But that's me in a nutshell. I always tend to make things harder for myself than they need to be. For some like, weird reason.
I wouldn't even say that right now is like the hardest time to release stuff. Like,
well, that's true.
Just put it out. Like,
yeah, totally. And people want to interact with you, not only because they are trying to fill some kind of emptiness that is there, that we're all feeling, but it's just something to kind of help keep things feeling not normal. There's another word, not normal, but I guess normal, that'll suffice. It helps people to feel grounded, I guess. You know, having something like when Jenny came out, you know, it was great. I listened to that literally for an hour on my walk. That was all I listened to, rather than listening to my, you know, normal barrage of political podcasts or whatever. Totally. You know, and that was nice. It was nice to have that break. You know, it felt good. And that fucking kick, man, hits you in the head. I love it.
Yeah, man, you had the best tips, or the best, like, you know, suggestions on
the notes. I'm glad they helped. I'm glad they helped.
It really did.
Yeah.
This record was a little harder for me to mix, just because, you know, I don't know.
It's a different record for you,
man. Want to be right, and and I haven't mixed anything to be like a dance record before, so.
Right. Yeah. Well,
I didn't know what advice to give the mixer, and
Right, and he also wasn't. I mean, he mixed your guys' first record, right?
Yeah, which is, you know, lo-fi and more
totally
completely different record. Yeah.
Yeah, totally. So I mean, I think you made the right calls, and I mean, just like any record, it's a moment in time. That's something I have to keep telling myself. It's like getting a tattoo. Like, people always are hesitant or feel like they gotta get the imagery just right because it's going to be on them forever. And it's like, no, just look at it as it's a moment in time, you know? So now you've done this, you've got a dance record under your belt, and I'm excited to see what other music. I mean, some of those other songs that I think were starting to be worked on, and even maybe 1 or 2 that didn't make the record, those will be kind of cool to hear farther down the road too, you know?
I realistically can release, like, I think, like, I don't know, 6 months worth of material if I just space it out in singles.
Yeah, totally.
If there's something that I wasn't like 100% sold on, now I don't have to feel like I'm forced to release it because I already recorded it and mixed it and mastered it.
Right, exactly. And that's the other thing. You can do whatever you like with it. You have your Patreon now too, and fuck, man. You know, maybe someday you can release it as a B-sides. I don't know. Like, that's another thing.
Yeah, my advice for Patreon people, if you're you know, trying to think about what should I do on Patreon or what should I do on YouTube, is really just like find what's easiest for you to make, because if you're going to do something that's really hard, you're never going to do it.
Exactly, yeah.
So for me, the most natural thing was DJ mixes. Like, I do that already. Like, that's fun and easy for me. So I can deliver that. the
Right.
deliverables, which is important. Like the next
Yeah.
project I'm working on is like Dante demos, and maybe I'll
Right.
record like a little snippet. I don't know if I'm gonna get there yet, but like that's the
Right.
next project I'm working on. Is like this like 6
Yeah.
years worth of demos from like
Yeah.
2010 to 2006.
Be great. Just fucking do a quick little master, solid, like high quality MP3 is all somebody needs on Patreon, really. I
Yeah.
mean, and you're good to go. Like I mean, I got a solid, yeah, a ton of demos. So like for me, that would be the easiest thing because I record from home all the time. It's just,
Yep.
and now more than ever, it's just I never release any of it. So I think, yeah, on a Patreon, that will probably be my go-to, is just giving people demos. Basically, that's one of the tiers. And then I think guitar lessons, probably, because it's something I'm already doing. That makes sense. I'd like to start some kind of a YouTube, maybe not a podcast, I don't know. I had this idea called The Scattered Musician, to basically just let myself be exactly what I am all over the fucking map.
You should do a podcast, man. Like,
Yeah.
we need more music podcasts. That's what I've been saying. And you're really good at it. You should start one.
I will take that under I'll take that advice. Thank you.
Yeah, man. It's just the mic, and you have all the recording equipment. You know.
Yep. Yeah. You just talk with your friends.
Yeah,
it's true. Yeah, it's true. It's just the self-defeating part of myself that always keeps me from doing anything. But again, those things are a lot less vocal in my head, especially during quarantine.
Yeah.
It's like I want to be more active. So I have been. Like this album that I recorded, part of it I started doing on my own through this 8-track, and then my buddy Bear hit me up saying that he was doing socially distant mobile recording. And I was like, oh fuck, well that sounds interesting. So he buzzed over to Lompoc, and we've been recording from this room that I'm in right now, actually, and we have a whole record recorded. I'm getting the last
how many
two
songs?
It's going to be 11 by the time it's done. Yeah, and we'll probably keep recording, and I'll just release it in chunks. And I'm going to release that song that I sent you earlier, not because again it's single material, but because I realized it means something to me, and it means something to the people that I know. So that means something. So I'm going to start there, and then the next couple of singles, maybe it'll be more singly, but we'll see. I wrote a song that's pretty pertinent to what's going on right now, and I feel like I want to release that next because, again, this moment will pass. So that's something I want to try and, I guess, put out because it does speak to the time a little bit more effectively than if I were to release it like in 6 months. So we'll see, but it feels good to be working consistently. So we've been doing that for like a month and a half, and every week he comes up, we record for like 8 to 10 hours, and call it a day. Gotten to the point now where we're just going to start working on some of the mixes and take breaks from the basic tracking. My brother even came too, which was cool, because Samuel was working at New Frontiers, so he was self-isolating from our family for a good long time. He finally put in a leave of absence there, and he hit me up when he heard that I was recording. It's like, hey man, if you need drums on anything, because we were just building beats basically, which was actually a lot of fun. I didn't realize how much fun that could be. And so he came over with his drums, and we banged out a couple, I think it was over 2 sessions. We banged out some fun drum tracks, so it'll be fun. It's nothing I had planned on doing. It's been more of just like a weekly practice in being consistent with something. And I definitely didn't want it to be one of those things where like, oh, it's quarantine, I gotta learn something new, or I need a new hobby, or any of those things. It's just, it seemed and felt like the right thing to do it with no agenda. Like that felt really good to kind of just start working with no real agenda in mind and let the project sort of take shape. And now that it's taken shape, I can kind of see what I want to do with it. That's been kind of a nice thing, rather than having a ordained idea. So that's been nice.
That's great.
Yeah. Masks on, hand sanitizing, sterile environment. But yeah, no, we've gotten to the point where we've been around each other enough to where we're not hugging or kissing or anything, but we're a little bit more friendly. But first it's comes in, washes hands. I make sure that I always wipe down the room after he leaves. And he just had a kid too, so I'm trying to be like extra careful too. And then with my mom as well, who's still like compromised. So doing my due diligence when I can.
Yeah, totally. I agree. Dang, that's insane. So what about some of those recordings I heard last year? Have you
Right.
released those yet?
Yeah. So I reached out to Danny and Scott Hirsch, who actually one of let's see, we talked about Silver Jews last year, and then David Berman passed away.
While we were on tour,
I know that album. My God, man,
I know.
Such an amazing album. But William Tyler, who's a guitar player I really like, I've met him a couple of times. We actually got to jam together when he played in Lombok a little while ago. It was like around the time Sun Kill Moon came through town. Sort of like this whole slew of like really interesting, unique musicians came through the area, and it was just kind of nice to meet all of those folks. But William Tyler worked with Scott Hirsch, and that was one connection. And then there was a couple others as well. So he just seemed like a cool guy to hook up with, and we ended up playing a show together. So we exchanged information, and we've been in touch ever since. But of course, with everything going on, it's been a little bit harder to be consistent in that communication. Like they all have families and things like that as well. So I reached out to them about finishing that track and doing another song with them. And it's just about basically scheduling things. Like one of the guy who played bass on that track, his dad just passed away too, who was dealing with the same thing that my mom's dealing with. So we would talk back and forth, but it's one of those things where it's going to take a little bit longer, and I'm in no rush, but I would like to get that track out. I mean, I'm really proud with where that song ended up.
Are you adding that to the album, or?
No, that's going to be its own thing. So
then
so
you
this
guys
record,
just drop it.
Yeah, totally. So this yeah. So well, they have to give me the master. That's where I'm at with this. The track is done, but I'm waiting on the master. And then I was, prior to COVID, I was like, oh cool, well just give me the master when you can. All this shit happened. Everybody's lives got derailed, and now we're talking again about getting the master done. And yes, absolutely want to drop it. It's not attached to anything.
Yeah. So yeah, that's perfect. Perfect one to start off with. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So that's a goal. And then the song I sent you, I'm going to release that, I guess in the next couple of weeks. I got to probably get on TuneCore and get that shit planned. I got to get the artwork finished, but that's not going to be that hard or complicated. So,
okay.
Yeah. It feels good though to have some forward motion.
Well, but, when you add it to TuneCore, like, you know, on Spotify, there's like an option to like submit for playlists now.
Oh.
So I haven't gotten shit. I've submitted, and I'm submitting next month's song too. But
I guess that's all you can do, man. It's just submit.
All you can do.
We're not working with publishers. We're not working with PR reps. So I mean, you do what you can do. I mean, even people that I know who have been signed recently or have all of those things in place are struggling. And this has definitely been a great leveler. It's leveled the playing field. I feel like, you know, again, like we talked about, you do whatever you want to do. Like there are no rules. It's the fucking Wild West. It's the Wild West minus that minus the Stevie Wonder song that Will Smith sang. I guess I'm thinking about Will Smith a lot. He must be.
That's true.
He must be trending.
Yeah, man. It's definitely the Wild West. I think right now is the best time to just release whatever. Like all my friends are on labels, have gotten their albums pushed back, and maybe they're gonna come out in the summer. But which is weird, like, because, you know, the music industry primarily is an e-commerce like business. Right.
Like
exactly. You're still pushing records online, like you're mailing out records, and streaming is so popular. Like the only thing that hurts you is the touring, and that's really where you sell a lot of records.
Yeah, and the band is going to be hurting. You know, their crew is going to be hurting the most from that.
Yeah,
it seems like. I mean, that's where you make your money back. I feel like as a band these days, where you have the potential to make some residual income, especially if you're with a label. So I know it seems like they don't want to do one without the other, so they're putting everything on hold. I guess it is funny to me though, because I agree, it's an online thing. It's funny that you would just sort of negate all of it because you can't do one aspect of it. But I don't know, have you heard any rumors about shows, bigger shows, tours, like I guess when the restart would be for any of that?
I think it was looking positive before we had another surge. You know,
Yes.
like I got that email from Soho about like 36 people on the patio, bring your own mic, that kind
Right.
of
Right.
thing.
Yeah.
And I don't know if that's still going down. I haven't received an email, but they were getting really excited, and now everything's closing up again. So I doubt it's going to happen. But
Yeah. True.
that kind of gave me a hint of what's about to be our future, where
Right.
you bring your mic to every show,
Right.
and
What's coming down
may
the pipe? Yeah.
yep, and maybe we don't share gear anymore. Like
Yeah. Yeah.
if it turns out it can be transmitted through touch, maybe stuff like that. I don't
Yeah.
know. People say it can't be transmitted through surfaces, but
I've heard that it's less. Yeah, I heard that
yeah,
that was one of those things where, like, we had all this data and we were pulling information from all these aggregated information, so different sources, right? And one of the big ones was surfaces, wipe all surfaces down with what is it, isopropyl alcohol and whatever else, and they came out and said that the likelihood of you getting it transmitted that way is very slim. So it sounds like it is predominantly through the air or the air droplets, and it's still the danger that largely a lot of people are asymptomatic, so they can spread it that way. But also, are you on I know that you've talked about it a bit, but what are your thoughts about, because I don't mean to keep going on about COVID.
That's okay.
So prevalent, but I remember other folks saying that didn't really want to talk about it as much. How do you feel about having that conversation? Like, is it something that you sort of get tired of talking about, or
I think it's fine. I've gotten tired of some podcasts because they've just been downplaying the severity of it, like the fighter and the kid. It's mostly that Joe Rogan crew. They've been like really reckless with some of their language, and
they have. I know.
Like Brendan Schaub and them, they're all talking about moving to Texas. Well, Brendan Schaub went to Texas and did stand up, and him and Brian Callen both got fucking COVID-19. So
that's called poetic justice or irony or whatever. I mean, not that you wish it on anybody, but goddamn, that's,
of course you want to take this. Hopefully these podcasts can be a moment to get away. But if it's what's going on in our lives, and people listen to this podcast because we're musicians and we don't really have an outlet. And right now, this is one of the only podcasts that are talking about how people on our level are getting through this.
That's a very good observation. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. The other music podcasts out there are kind of focused around more established legacy kind of artists, and they kind of get like bigger names, like Andre 3000 goes and talks to Rick Rubin about shit. It's like, dude, they're not on the same level as us, and they're not going through the same struggles as us.
Yeah, they can afford to navigate this shit however they want. Nothing against Andre or Rick or Rubin, but I mean, like, the reality is they're on a different pay grade for sure.
So I know those are like the big music ones, like but we need something. That's what I'm saying, for you or for anyone. I'm always telling people to start one. Like, we need more explaining the struggle and what it takes to release your, because there's lots of people, even the step before us, which is I just want to start a band. Like, and how do I do that?
Yeah,
that's
totally.
Like the step below. Like,
like, how do you book a gig? How do you how do you set
book
up
a tour?
PA? Totally. Yeah. I know. Yeah, well, that's a good point. I mean, I don't like always using the word hierarchy, but like, I guess in the music world, the hierarchy as it pertains to us, there is some relevance to us speaking specifically to, our demographic, I guess, which is, it's not I'm not even liking the term DIY, but I mean whatever level we're at, there is something to what you're saying. I would agree. There's an audience for that, and that information should be shared more. So
we're working musicians, like in an industry that either doesn't want us or
right. We have some minor successes, and then we have some big losses, and we keep powering through it. That's kind of I would say more people I know who've had even bigger successes deal with the same shit that we're dealing with. Again, they might just have maybe more of a footprint than we do, than either of us do.
Yeah.
But there's still those very real things that they struggle with. So
Well, that's why I was bummed I didn't get a chance to talk to Sonny today, because like I looked at his Wikipedia and he had 8 years worth of albums before he was signed. I was like, okay,
fuck yeah.
like as someone on the opposite side of that, like grinding for 8 years and then finally you're on Polyvinyl, like I wanted to hear about that process, but obviously I had some difficulties. We actually might meet up in person in 10 days, I think, actually.
Oh, that'd be really cool, man.
If
you
cool.
can do that,
yeah.
I would opt for the meeting in person anytime.
I know. Just 6 feet away outside.
6 feet away and outside. I think so too. I think that, I mean, that was why, me and my partner went to the beach the other day. We just stayed to ourselves. We stayed away from folks. Anytime we got close, we wore masks. I brought, because again, I'm paranoid, I brought hand sanitizer. I wasn't like spraying sunscreen. I was spraying fucking hand sanitizer all over.
Yeah.
Rubbing that shit in. But getting that vitamin D, man. That sunny D. That's cool, though.
Sunny D.
Yeah, that sunny D. I think that's all relevant. And I would love to hear that too from Sonny in particular. Like, it would be interesting. I'm always curious to hear about those artists. And again, I think there are more of those than not. We just tend to focus on the success part of it. We don't hear about the part leading up to it. I mean, like Jeff Buckley is a good example of somebody who, he went to school. He even went to MI. I think he did. Yeah, he went to Musicians Institute, and then he was a session musician. He played in and out of a ton of bands, the bar band thing. Then moved to New York in his late 20s.
Yep.
Mid 20s, and then didn't get signed till he was like 28, 29. But and it was because he wasn't even doing the thing that you would normally do. Like, he was playing in a coffee shop and like found a gig that felt wholesome and intentional for him, and and then Columbia Records rolls up, but they definitely weren't the first, and there was a lot of little things in between that. It also didn't fucking help. It didn't hurt, rather, that his dad was Tim Buckley.
Which held some kind of clout. Like, but now as we've gone further into the future, like, he's rather obscure. Like, Tim Buckley is rather obscure of like a reference. But in the 90s, I guess it was more relevant. It was more relevant, and there was it was closer to the time when he had been present and current. And I know. But Tim is I actually, Tim's great. I love Tim. I find it actually unfortunate how many people I run into who haven't even heard of Jeff Buckley too, who I feel like is a pretty common name, a household name, if you will. And in my house, it's a very common name. Like, he's definitely one of my biggest influences, and the person who just like I followed basically his voice and taught myself how to sing through him. I did not know that. That's fantastic, man. Just trying to sound like him, trying and kind of like singing along to Grace over and over again. I mean, I never really had voice lessons. I mean, even being in a family of musicians, like, I've always been self-conscious of the singing thing. But Jeff Buckley, albeit his range is significantly different, like, I have a routine still of a couple of songs. One song that I warm up to is Between the Bars by Elliott Smith, and Twilight. I love that song, and it's at the absolute top end of my range. So it's just something that I like to kind of like almost yell out, so it gets everything out of my throat. And then and then anything off of Grace, like, is great to warm up to, just because it requires so much endurance. It's just crazy. Like that's kind of singing. It's just intense and beautiful. He had a great way of working with his tone and the vocal acrobatics, of course, but like, aside from just being able to go up and down, like, there was a unique, his ability just to have a nice tone which is what's so great about him. Totally. I heard that it might have been for the whole album, but in particular for Hallelujah, they got the song, they recorded it, and then he spent forever getting the vocals the way that he wanted it. Because he really wanted it to, again, hit in the right way. So it was like the perfect amount of, bright versus soft, and just very elegant. And I love how you can hear his, the things that he's influenced by. Like, I hear a lot of Nina Simone and what he does. And Ray Charles, Van Morrison, all that stuff. But like, another thing I've always loved about Jeff is you could tell how
strong of an artist he was, even though some of his art didn't feel like done. Like it felt like in
Hmm.
process. I mean, it was his first record after all, but like I always loved how raw and powerful and how he could grab you, even though, like, especially as more of a writer now, I can hear these are almost like ideas strung together sometimes, and some of them work incredibly well and it feels like a finished thought, and then some of them are like, this is a really interesting exercise in like songwriting, and like you could tell he was chasing something. I always want to hear what it was he was chasing. But that, I mean, that is like
Exactly.
art. That is art in general. I mean, there's that constant, evolution. Like the Strokes dropped their new record a couple months ago, I think it was,
Yeah.
and I remember actually enjoying that. Like I didn't like the record before, but I thought that this one was better. I mean, it might have just been the right time of day when I heard it, but
Yeah.
there is that. I feel like they changed what rock and roll was for a pretty significant chunk of time. And anytime they come back, it's sure it's not the same, but like I feel like try and at least be aware that they're not the Strokes from 20 years ago.
What do you think about Julian Casablancas' father being caught up with Jeffrey Epstein?
I am not surprised.
And just to be, just to make it clear, Julian was
Yeah.
not raised particularly, he wasn't really raised
Yeah.
by his father. So there's not like,
No,
no.
totally. Don't totally. Not surprising. I think that those things are not Julian or the Strokes per se, but like anything involving money and the circles in which money travels, it's never surprising. Like, again, people, it's a catchphrase now to say the 1% or the top
Yeah.
1%. But like when you say that, 1% is a small amount of people. So of course, people with that level of clout, that kind of money, are going to travel in similar circles, and it is, I think, kind of despicable. It shows like how at the top of everything, that is the root of all evil, is like that kind of power, that kind of corruptive, the corruptive nature of money and the imperialist capitalist mentality, So I don't know. Yeah, that shit, it didn't surprise me. I mean, I thought that there was a picture circulating on Instagram a little while ago showing Trump hanging with Epstein as well. And it's like, I mean, absolutely, yes, of course he knew the guy, but just as well as Bill Clinton knew the guy, like as well as anybody else who like traveled in those circles or was beholden to the corporate America or to Wall Street. Like, of course they knew each other. Like, I don't know how much.
Well, there's a photo of Elon Musk with Ghislaine Maxwell too.
Oh Christ.
Yeah.
I mean, again,
he says he was photobombed, but yeah.
Well, who the fuck knows with Elon? Jesus Christ. I mean, who knows really? I mean, about any of it, man. I mean, I don't know. I try to not despair over it, but it's one of those things where, like, even for all of the deep diving or all of the reading or all of the research that you do, at the end of the day, how do you know who really has the power in a certain situation? Like, everything has been monetized, everything has been marketed. Like even social movements, man, have become a way for certain industries to make money, like, or even the environmentalist movement, that Michael Moore movie that came out recently on YouTube that he produced, but another guy, I think, directed it or definitely narrated it. I found that very interesting. It was that whole thing of how, going green has become, just another commodity. It's become another way for people to make money. Like, why do you think Bloomberg invested in certain green trends? It's not because he's environmentalist. He's a fucking capitalist. Like, he's gonna follow the green. He's not gonna try and be green. And I always thought that's, you have to pay attention when you see people of that caliber getting involved with any movement. It's sort of like, Cornel West said this. He has this great podcast called The Tightrope with I think it's Trisha Rose that just started, and it's like, I've loved Cornel West for years. Just like, the way he talks is amazing, but I love that he emphasizes like art and beauty and culture, and that's sort of what he focuses on. But I mean, he hits home every time. But like, he was just saying how that's the thing you have to watch out for. It's like, you have to watch out for the money. Like, when there is something you believe in, you have to try and peel that layer back just enough to be like, okay, well, who's funding, who's who's feeding you that information, and why is this person with billions of dollars now involved in this thing? Is it because they're truly a good Samaritan who want to benefit society as a whole, or is it because they have some kind of angle? And the unfortunate thing is, because those circles again are so small, the circles that Jeffrey Epstein and the Trumps and Clintons and everything run in, it's like it's connected because they all have some kind of a fucking angle. Not to sound like a conspiracy theorist, but I mean, it's just sort of that whole thing of like, you got to follow the money, and yeah.
Speaking of conspiracy theories, are you in the camp that the government wants to shut down TikTok?
I think the government wants to invariably shut down everything.
Yeah.
At some point, I think, that one cracked me up, but I do not think that they do. No, I think that that's something that's got kind of blown out of proportion, but I could be wrong. I don't know enough about it. That's one of those things where, like, what was that?
Well, TikTok's saying it's because TikTok itself is saying it's because Gen Z is really coming together on there to troll Trump, and he doesn't, with the whole Tulsa thing, where that movement to buy all his tickets came from TikTok.
Yeah, and K-pop and all of their the
fans, K-pop stands. Yeah.
Dude, I think that's fucking awesome.
So now it's a threat to him, so he wants to shut it down.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised. Like, again, my whole attitude is I would not be surprised if the powers that be are threatened. They will do whatever it takes to stay in power, and that's something else I've been thinking about a lot lately too. Is the idea of peaceful revolution and reforming the system and all these things. I often wonder, and it's kind of a sad thought to think about, is our system even able to be, and I'm only thinking of this from the angle of this particular hypothesis, which is it even capable of being reformed? Like, again, Cornel West said this the other day. It's like, the empire of America, can it be, revolutionized? Can it be changed? Like, at the end of the day, it's just something that it should be thought about. You shouldn't stop trying to change the system as it is and making a difference. But it's sort of one of those things with, like, man, how much can be changed because of how centralized the power is in the country. Like, there is a very slim margin of people who maintain that power and will do anything to hold on to that power. And again, it fucking scares the shit out of me that Trump and his thugs are in the White House. But to where, like, whole shut down TikTok. I mean, it's laughable. Like, if we were to talk about this like fucking 4 or 5 years ago and be like, this is what we're going through now, I wouldn't have really believed it. It's so unbelievable that you just accept it. It's crazy. And at the same time, it makes perfect sense. Like, I heard somebody else say, I wish I could quote who it is because I don't know who it is, but that Trump is the president that we deserve. Yeah. Somebody said, like, we've checked out for so long, and now we're finally checking back in, and we're like, oh fuck, this is the system we have. Oh fuck, that's the president we have. Now we're paying attention. But what got us to Trump was so much just checking out, or, oh, the system's corrupt, I'm not going to vote, or, oh, nothing makes a difference, so I'm not even going to pay attention to things on a local level. Or it's that ultimate, just like, this doesn't concern me. So it leaves, you realize how fragile the whole thing is, the whole system is. You realize how the whole experiment can just disappear like that. And without participation, it ceases to be a democracy. Like, we have to participate. That's what an active democracy is, So it's just fascinating that now people are seeing it, but I don't know what's going to happen because the dude's already in power. Like, I worry about him not leaving. That's honestly what I worry about.
Yeah, that's what I'm worried about too. Yeah,
that is a conspiracy theory to an extent, but, like, you see how narcissistic and how there is the rule of one for him. Like, everything centers around how it affects him. The funny thing with COVID is how much he's botched that, and how he continues to be so focused on the 24-hour news cycle that he doesn't see how he's hurting his numbers farther down the road. Like, Biden is doing next to nothing, he's still killing him in the polls because Trump is hurting himself so bad.
But it's crazy. But the polls lie.
Well, they tell the truth of the moment in a shorter time frame then I think people, like with Hillary as an example,
Yeah.
they were accurate in terms of how close it was up until James released that statement from the FBI saying that we're reopening this investigation, and that basically,
Yeah.
like within a 3-day span. I mean, we're talking literally, I think the Saturday or Sunday before the election, the head of the FBI releases a statement saying we are opening the investigation into Hillary Clinton. Like, I mean, that no matter what poll anywhere in the country says, like, that's going to just hurt turnout. Like, that does not look good. And I mean, people already didn't like Hillary as it was.
Yeah.
And then that comes out and you're like, well, fuck. I was talking about this with Joel the other day, though, too, about the polls, because I feel actually more like you about the polls, that the polls do lie, or just you can't trust them. And I would agree. The polls shouldn't be trusted. They are a composite of a moment in time from a small group of people. You know, they take a sampling from here and a sampling from there.
Yeah.
So you have to look at them sort of with a grain of salt, but it can kind of help lead your direction. But like, if you compare even the polls now versus like what was going on at the same time when Hillary was running against Trump, like she was ahead only by a little bit even during this time, but like Biden is 15, sometimes 20 points ahead in some states. It's crazy, and against an incumbent. That hasn't happened. I don't even know. In our lifetime, it hasn't happened. I don't.
Yeah.
And I think that's largely in part because of COVID, and because of course the epic, economic repercussions that are happening. That's the other thing I worry about is, like, by next quarter, what does this all look like? Like, we're in an official recession. Is it going to become a depression? Like, when we get those next quarter numbers, like what does that look like? So I don't know. Not very interesting stuff, but that's the stuff that keeps me up at night. That's what I listen to podcasts for. I'm like constantly filtering in this information, man.
Yeah. So it's just a way to try and make sense of it all, and try to process it in our own heads of like, what's America about to look like come November?
Totally.
Like with Trump and Biden doing debates over Zoom, like.
Yeah, I know. What is that?
That's a conversation that's gonna start happening real soon, and who's moderating it? Who's the host of the Zoom? Who can mute Trump if he's going over his time? Because you have the ability to mute people on this thing. Like, we could have an actual organized and debate where you don't have the crowd like yelling, and like you can just get information out of both of them. That's what I'm looking forward to.
Oh yeah, the debates will be interesting. I mean, there's the other thing of like, has Trump even agreed to debate Biden? Like, there's one of those things where he's so petulant.
I think he kind of has to, right? Is there a law that says you have to?
No, president. I mean, I don't think so. Again, I'm no expert. But I would, if there is no law saying he's beholden to engage in this activity, I am positive he will make some stink about. I guarantee that will be a subject as well, even before we get to the Zoom conversations and debates. Is the conversation of, is he even going to agree to debate Biden? Like, that's even a possibility of him just sort of like. The other thing is too, like, he's been setting, and a lot of people in his administration have set up this false narrative with Biden for so long now that he's incoherent. He can't string together a sentence, and he might not be in the shape that he was even 10 years ago when he was debating Paul Ryan, but he, as proven by the debate against Bernie, that was actually, televised, but they were socially distant, and it was different for a debate. They might end up being similar to that, but like, he was fine in that, and he did fine against Bernie, who has all of that energy. It's sort of Trump is kind of digging his own grave in that he's making Biden out to be this person who can't hold it together, who's this feeble kind of individual. So that all Biden has to do is say a complete sentence, look good on camera, and he's really kind of in, at least in terms of winning that debate. Like, winning over the public. Totally, yeah. I mean, because they've set the bar for Biden so low. It's crazy. And
we just want to see him healthy, making coherent sentences, and
totally.
And tell us who your VP is, because that's who's running the actual country.
Totally, yeah. Middle of August, I think that'll be announced. I think it's usually it's a couple weeks out from whenever the conventions happen. Oh, and that was hilarious too when I heard that. I mean, again, hilarious from the stance of, I don't want anybody obviously to be suffering from COVID. Who the fuck
Yeah.
does? But like hilarious from the stance of that. Here's a state like Florida that completely just, is going against any, I mean, not common sense, but like they were slow to accept that this was happening and slow to do something about their response. And now they're really, unfortunately, not doing well. But that was where the Republican convention was going to be in Jacksonville in August. Jacksonville is like one of the epicenters now of COVID. And like they do not want Trump to bring the Republican convention there. He's already had to move it once. I think it was going to be in Georgia before. So like that's another thing, is like, how are they even going to have his fucking, convention? Like he's already blown the pooch with his rally in Tulsa and going to these other places, the Mount Rushmore. Jesus, the whole speech outside.
I actually watched that.
Yeah, same. I feel
I was just at home and I had the TV on. I was like,
yeah. I was a couple glasses of wine in and like, Jesus, okay, this is happening. The whole indoctrinating children, and I was just like, the language. Jesus, the language, man. That's the biggest thing for me. Is like, there's a lot of kids who enjoy watching Trump because he's entertaining. Like, and because he's literally maybe the world's greatest troll, and that's not a good thing, but like he is also the president, so kids will watch him and pay attention to him because he is a loud, aggressive personality. And I knew even prior to this, I knew kids, not adults, but kids who were like, oh, he's funny, he's, I'm for Trump because he makes me laugh, he's such a silly guy. Like they don't even understand the relevance of some the repercussions of some of the things he's saying. They'll repeat it back and be like, fuck, man, do you know what that actually means? Like, damn. And then here he is at Mount Rushmore talking about indoctrinating children, and I'm just like, you fucking guy. So
he's crazy, man.
Yeah, it is. And I really was gunning for Yang. That was my
dude too.
Yeah, I was in that camp for sure. I am, to circle back to a positive, I am happy that Yang is moving ahead. It's like, he's, of all of those people, he's not a politician, he's an entrepreneur.
He's not fake.
He's not fake. He's literally putting his money where his mouth is and trying to make a difference. And I really admire that. And he's the only candidate I've ever donated to. Yeah.
Because I was just like, he needs it. And I like his ideas and
totally.
Yeah.
I ended up donating to Bernie actually. But that was when Yang, I think, dropped out. And basically it was down to Bernie. It was between like Bernie or Biden. I was like, wow, fuck Biden. I'm going for Bernie. But I think Bernie, his time was in 2016. He didn't have the same momentum.
Yeah, it didn't feel the same.
It didn't feel the same. It seemed like they were rehashing some things. I feel like they could have tailored their message better to be a little bit more on point for 4 years later. It did feel... It felt like it was the exact same stump speech from 4 years ago. And I love Bernie, but Andrew was a fresh voice, and the ideas, like, I feel like an idiot saying it, but like I maybe had heard about UBI via Martin Luther King, but not as something a politician actually talked about. So that was a fascinating idea. And I think we talked about it just like hearing everything else on how he would want to execute that plan, but then his thoughts about the future. And I mean, it was just really fascinating stuff. So,
if you follow him on Twitter, like he's constantly sharing a lot of great articles, and one of them was like one company that's already rolling out with the autonomous fucking semi truck. And that's they already got that. I'm getting Facebook ads for the burger flipper. Right. Yeah. For the big claw that flips burgers. Like that's tons of jobs, especially for high school students who don't have any experience. Like where the whole thing, it's like, I can't get a job because I don't have experience. I don't have experience, so I can't get a job. That's just going to start circling over and over and over again.
No, it's the
and there's nothing wrong with making burgers. That's fucking essential work. And that's all essential work. And I have friends who work at the grocery store, and we now find out that they're needed more than most marketing companies.
Right, totally.
They're needed more than most people I fucking know.
Yeah, it's true. And those jobs will be replaced. Like, you can't fight if the incentive is to make as much money as possible and not for the care and humanity and value that your employees have. If that's not your incentive, then yeah, you're going to, especially when posed with um, the massive amount of losses that most companies are going to be dealing with. Like, even if they can write off some things or they get some stimulus money or whatever, we're still talking about a pretty major cultural and economic shift. And those companies will accelerate, kind of like Yang was saying on some of his talks. Like, those things have been accelerated exponentially because of the crisis happening right now. And in other words, the future is here, and it's now a question of how do we deal with it, and how do we sustain ourselves into this brave new world. Who the fuck knows? We're artists, so we do what we do, which is interpret the times, interpret the feeling of society, the feelings we have. And I mean, art, I think, is always more vibrant during a time like this, but there's also just like, how do we survive, those basic questions. I mean, and so far, then on the positive is, like, we are still here. We have survived this far. We might not know what shape it's going to take, but we'll probably be here after. So I don't know. We'll see. But there's going to be a lot more displacement happening. That is for sure. Yeah. If that truck already rolled out, the burger flipper is here. I mean, those are signs.
It's getting crazy.
It's getting crazy. I mean, we already know that being able to check out of a store, you can do that on your own. You don't need a grocer, really. And fuck, yeah, I don't know. Yeah. It is getting crazy.
And now I find myself using, I was very anti the self-checkout. We just got that at my grocery store by my house, and I didn't want to use it. But now I'm using it because I don't want to touch, the employees. Like, and I don't want them to touch me. Like, so now I find myself just checking myself out now. And it's like, this is not what I wanted to do. So it did accelerate.
Yeah.
What's our future?
Yeah.
It's coming.
And I feel like,
you said 5 to 10 years. It's going to be like 2 to 3 now.
Yeah. Yeah, I know. It's crazy. So whatever schemes you have, now is the time to implement them.
Yeah, man.
Whatever you got to do to survive, this is it.
Well, okay, so we're...
Yeah.
No, I was gonna say we are getting close to the end here, as things are starting. Things are starting to die on me. Do you have anything to promote, or what's the best way to support Jacob Cole in these moments?
Okay, in these moments, at this particular time, if you follow me on Instagram, at the Jacob Cole, my website is jacobcolemusic.com. I'll be putting up some lesson resources up there pretty soon. My YouTube page is Jacob Cole, and then I'm on Facebook under the Jacob Cole as well. And that's the best way, at least for now, to stay current as to what I'll be doing. But I will be releasing a new song in the next couple of weeks.
Cool.
The album, I think, like you, I'm probably gonna stick with doing singles and just kind of release something once a month for a little while here.
Yeah.
I'm doing music for Good Morning Lompoc, and teaching where I can for anybody who's interested, and that's basically it, man. Just trying to survive.
Patreon and YouTube, I guess, at some point.
Yeah. So YouTube is a thing. I've started uploading some lesson videos to that and some other things on there. So like I said, I have a pretty, there's no precedence. It's like 56 people subscribe, which I'm very thankful to those 56, but we know what numbers are on YouTube, and that's going to be a slow crawl, but I'm going to work on getting that up there. So YouTube,
you need 1,000 and then 5,000 minutes of watch time.
Yeah, that's it. That's right, man. And the thing I have to fight with YouTube is there's another dude named Jacob Cole.
Oh.
So for all of our listeners we both started being active at the same time, but he lives on the East Coast, which is funny because that's where I'm from originally. So it is ironic, but he's from the East Coast and he does hand pan drum work. So if you see his YouTube videos, just so you know, that is not me. I can pretend it's me, but that's not me.
All right.
He's not quite as good looking either. So you'll be able to tell face difference. So yeah, YouTube, Patreon, I'll launch that plan is August 1st for the Patreon. So just stay tuned, man. I appreciate you having me on. I look forward to
this is fun.
Yeah,
I haven't seen you in a while. It's great to catch up.
Absolutely. Yeah. Hopefully we can do something in person, whether it's playing or, God willing, a tour maybe next year. Who knows?
I hope so, man. I hope so.
Cool. All right. Well, much love, man, and good luck with everything on your end.
Yeah,
as
man.
Well.
I hope you and your family stay safe, and I wish you the best.
Yes, thank you. You as well, man. Cheers.
Cool. See ya.